it's like 9 to 5, 9 to 5, 9 to 5, and they're doing the clock thing, and then they're like, and then a mom's job. All right, welcome to another episode of the Final Percent Podcast, and I have Lora and Kip Brown with me, two of my very favorite people, and we've kind of become, three peas in a pod, if you will. Um, so I've been to a bunch of events, and the biggest thing that I'll say about these people is they are very good at what they do, but they're even better at who they are. And we talk about be before do and then do before have, and really getting to know these people. We're going to end up running events together. We're launching a coaching business together. We're launching a coaching mastermind together. And, I'm just excited. So just so you guys know, anyone listening to this, anyone watching this, if you're on YouTube, um, Lora actually asked me this before we went live. She said, "Okay, can you just give me a little bit of context on, what we're going to talk about this on the other?" I said, "I have never scripted a podcast, so I don't even know what I'm going to say." And and that goes both ways because Lora is like one thing about this woman that I just absolutely love is she's going to give you the honest answer. So it's bi-directional. Bi-directional. I said, "Is there anything that I should stay away from?" They said no. I said, "Is there anything that you want me to ask?" They said, "You ask whatever you need to." So we're just gonna have a conversation basically in front of a bunch of people, um, to help you understand them and our relationship and some of the things that we are going to be doing. We've already talked about doing an event in Seattle sometime in August, which we're excited about. They came to the Dallas event. They've come to my masterminds at my house, and they're coming to Detroit. So without further ado, why don't each of you just kind of give me, a 60-second overview of, life in the way that you see it, things that you're excited about, and, your niche in this, and then we'll just get into a conversation and see where this ends up.
Oh, sounds fantastic. Appreciate it, Greg. Thank you so much for having us on here. And man, I got to tell you, it's been just an absolute pleasure hanging out with you, going to all these events. It goes both ways, man. We've come to become very good friends. I think one of my favorite all-time memories was that time in the lazy river. Man, that was it's just I keep going back to that. That was just magical. It was fun there with Conrad and everything, man. We just had so much fun.
The
So
three amigos, we could have stayed in that lazy river forever. We had
I could still be there.
and and for all intents and purposes, we actually had three 2-year-olds. Like that's how we
That's exactly what it
had
was.
such a good time too.
Yeah, well, and that's a perfect segue into this because that's how I live life. I want to enjoy every moment. I like to be the life of the party, but I like the party to have life around me. It's about designing what it is that you really want and have fun in everything.
All right, we got to press pause. I like to be the life of the party, but I like the party to have life around me. Yeah. I hope everyone writes that down because there's a lot of people out there trying to be the life of the party, but they're at a dead party. So yeah. It goes both ways. That's good, man. Ooh, I love that. See, that's why you don't script it. It just kind of happens.
Exactly. So yeah, and it's all about doing that. You like to say cool things with cool people. I had just adopted that. I'm going to steal that every time I can because that really is how it's all about. It's about having fun with people around you and just enjoying everything it is and going through helping as many people as possible and have fun doing it.
Exactly right. All right, Lora.
All right, the much more structured side of all of these things, right? So yeah, what I really love, and I appreciate you having us on and those types of things, because getting to know everybody a little bit is a way to really make those kinds of connections. And I ultimately love the whole TFK community and why we're really into this, because the positivity and the upliftingness of it all has just given me life back to all of the, the things that I've wanted to do. And my journey has been, lengthening out type of scenario over the last few years and those types of things. And to always be surrounded every time that I come to our events and be parting of the community, to really have that space to grow and to be positive and to see other people that are doing those same things is really a big, huge part of what really inspires me, and that I also like to give to other people
Yeah.
as part of me being part of all of that. So, and what I like to bring to it, and part of what this journey has been for me as being part of TFP and connecting with you and those types of things, is really being able to find that piece of me that I really have always had, but I just didn't know how to connect it in all of the ways. And I didn't have the excitement about it because I didn't realize that it was a thing to be excited about, right? And I'm talking about design. I'm talking about actually, we talk about ourselves being the life design duo. It took stages of going through that process to really dial that in. And for me, I am seeing that there is a lack of ability of people to realize that their environments around them and designing those with purpose and with some intention about having their spaces help them.
Okay, so can I say the name? Because I'm so excited about what you do. I want to say the name because if you've listened to my podcast, I talk about how important it is to design your environment. So much so, like where I place my pills in my house so that I'll actually work out. Um, Obviously, I'll just kind of move a little bit. Like I have my bike right there so that I have no excuses. I've got purple everywhere. My environment is incredibly designed, and Lora actually takes this a step further, and this is why I think she's so needed and necessary, very specifically in the world of personal growth, business growth, family growth, community growth. Um, and so she said, like, we're just hanging out, we're talking, kind of going through things, and she said sensational design, but like sense as in your senses, sensational design. And I was like, oh my, I was the emoji that has like the head blowing off. I was like, come on. That is so good because I think if people, because that's even a step further than what I do, because I try to be efficient and I do a little bit of that, but we can take it to another level. And I think that, you have a unique understanding of the senses and a unique understanding of design and the environment, and then you smash them together. So just kind of walk me through a little bit of just some of your thought processes, some of the things that you like, and talk to me a little bit about this sensational design idea that you had.
Well, it's not even just sensational design, but it's designing for sensational people. We all have the senses, right? And we look at it in the sense of and I've gotten a lot of my inspiration, knowledge, and that from working with the special needs community, right? That I have worked with my children have various levels of what we would call special needs. When I was first told that by doctors when they were little, it was traumatizing.
Yeah.
It was hard for me to accept because my vision of what special needs was not in a realm of success and uplifting.
They were always the kids that you pulled aside out of school and you took them out of the class and went stuck them in a
Yeah.
place.
Okay, no, I was in chapter 1, which is for stupid kids.
Yeah.
Most of so from 3rd grade till 6th grade, I was in chapter 1, which basically meant that I played Oregon Trail all day long. Like
Exactly. Exactly.
Thanks, American education system.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, as Laura said, that was really traumatizing.
Not only that, but for me, my family, I know, and you'll hear my story at some point. If you ever want to ask me, we can always go into it, right? But the first opportunities when my children were very little and people were like, well, what's wrong with them? And my mother was the first one that gave me full perspective of that. She's like, there's nothing wrong with them. They're just different. And we just need to share with people what those differences are and that they need different things in their environment to be able to give them the opportunity to enjoy their spaces and their people and stuff in the same way. And so I've spent years and years and years, understanding, trying to delve in and be able to see and recognize. And I've even noticed that it's really interesting when I'm in a room with children, especially that have a variety of these types of special needs, whatever severity, right? They tend to attract to me type of scenario. And it's because there's a certain level of understanding that they can come to me and I can feel out what it is that they are in need of.
Yeah, right? You make them feel safe.
It's a safe environment. It's an environment where they can be them without feeling different. And so when I looked at the design part of this, I started doing that with my design very intentionally just in the last probably 8 years or so, because I was trying to coordinate all of these different people in the same environment and to try to make it so that we could all coexist well, and we could all have our spaces that functioned for that, right, type of scenario. Now, I've experimented. I've played with a lot of things. I've taken my own, when I had my brain tumor diagnosis and surgery here almost 6 years ago, 6 years ago now, I got to experience that on a whole new level. And it was like a science project gone on the extreme, right? I got to understand what too much noise was, what too much, I literally talked to people in the hospital for 3 days with my eyes closed because the sensory inputs of
too much
vision, of being able to do that, I could not concentrate enough to formulate a conversation and to get words out if I had my eyes open and had all of the light coming in and all of the things to see. Even if the hospital room wasn't,
just so that everyone understands, and it's so apparent right now that we're going to have Lora back on by herself because she's such a brilliant human. And like 2 things that really stuck out to me. She said, oh, like, this is how you could tell when people think really big. Oh, in like the last 8 years, I've been developing this. I'm challenging everyone who is listening to this. What are you able to say that I've just been doing? I've just been doing this for like the last 8 years, and you don't, like, most of you are like, I've been doing this for 6 weeks and it's not working. Oh, I've been doing this for 6 months and it's not working. You're talking about someone who is diving in to something for 8 years and is still a student, is still a practitioner, and is still taking her game to the next level. Number 2, she just passively was like, and when I had my brain tumor, and and just kept going. So we'll dive into that, but for everyone, just like a quick synopsis. She and I actually just did a speech on the same stage where she was kind of going through life, and people kept telling her, well, it's all in your head. It's all in your head. It's all in your head. How many times have you heard it's all in your head? And when she had this line and I connected where she was going with it, I was like, you are so brilliant. So for everyone who doesn't understand, it was like, oh crap, you have like a very real brain tumor, like the size of like a small orange, I think it was, like a clementine-ish thing.
Not small.
It was this big.
Oh, okay, so a grapefruit. Got it.
A small grapefruit.
A small grapefruit. Yeah. Small grapefruit.
Big orange. A small grapefruit's a big orange. So she went through that, and they went from, hey, I think something's wrong, to, oh my God, I know something's wrong, to, holy crap, am I going to live? So we'll go through that. We'll go through that on another time. I think, maybe we even have a sit down in Detroit and unpack, more that is, I'm not going to say all that is Lora, because I don't know if there's enough time left in my life to actually unpack all that is Lora. But just for people out there who don't really know the story and understand who this woman is, what she's been through, what she's accomplished, what she's overcome, like you stick a freaking small grapefruit in your head and you have to go through the psychological trauma of knowing it's there, going through brain surgery. Like, so when she just casually said brain surgery, like this wasn't like cosmetic. Maybe there's like the thing that's like the size of a marble in there. It's like, hey, we're gonna have to take out this grapefruit really quick. And then you're gonna have to relearn how to do everything. So when she's saying she understood sensory input at a completely different level, she's not kidding. So we'll go more into that. Right now we're going to talk a little bit about, our events and the different things, but she said it so casually. Number one, how many of you listening can say that you've done anything for 8 years? And like that's a consistent human. And then number two, when she when she casually said brain surgery, I need everyone to understand like this is not like, and it's weird to say because we know it's serious. This is not your everyday brain surgery. Like this is, oh my God, like what happened? So we'll unpack that a little bit later, but I just wanted to make sure that people had a little more context so that they understand like we're legitimately dealing with a superhero while she's talking. So, had to add my 33 cents, which I think we all knew I was going to do anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, just
start over.
and Steve. But yeah, just so more about like you're sitting there, the doctors are talking, and you're kind of reprogramming your brain on what even sensory input is, and you're starting to realize at even a bigger level how important it is. So just talk a little bit more about that, and then we'll get to that guy who's sitting next to you. That I don't know how you follow Lora. We definitely should have started with Kip.
Yeah, no, I'm always fascinated to listen to this.
So good. All right, keep it going.
So yeah, the importance of sensory is really that we experience our world with all of our 5 senses. And it really is that. And the spaces that you're in can be there, all of those elements can be utilized to really help you uplift that. And so we're going to dive into just a small piece of it to begin with, right? Because it is a big subject. It's not a subject that you just, casually walk by and say something and then you just got it, right? Type of scenario. So we're going to jump into a specific piece of it in Detroit. I'm excited to start that conversation because it is a conversation that people often find challenging, and the enlightenment with it, and it's very personal. There is not a one size fits all. And that's what so much has been out there. It's like, oh, you should do your color in this color, or you should do, you should paint this color. And then people say, this is my favorite color. And then they go do it. And then they're like, but I don't like it, type of scenario. And so there is a whole different science actually behind it. But the science is very art level. Like there isn't a hard, one versus the other. There has a feel, and it's all about feel. It's all about, and it comes into the whole 5 senses type of scenario. So we're going to talk
there's a really important point there. I hope people are caught that, because she says things just absolutely brilliantly, and then they just so casually, like you might miss the point.
It's normal for her, and it's like special for everybody else.
Yeah,
like, I totally, that's
but the
in
point,
a nutshell.
Yeah, exactly. The point in there about the color, people they'll see a color and they'll like it in context. They'll be at Home Depot or Lowe's or someplace like that, and they'll see this color patch and like that, or they'll see it out in an environment. They're like, I want that color. They go slap it up on their wall, and then they're like, oh, I don't like that. What they're not really connecting the dot on is it's the emotion that is coming in that space. So one of the things Laura's brilliant about is figuring out how to create that emotion through color, through texture, through all the different things in a room so that it aligns with the emotion that you want to connect to.
And that's another thing, people need to remember, if you break down the word emotion, it stands for energy in motion. So a lot of people like need to get this through their head. You take an emotion and you make it your identity, which is the worst thing you can possibly do. So when people say, I'm angry, no, you are doing anger.
Yeah.
for instance, if Kip ever gets angry, Laura, I know he's never gotten angry ever in his life.
Never,
Um,
never once.
but if I ask him, okay, you're angry, but do you still love Laura? Of course he does. Do you still love your kids? Of course he does. Does he still love skiing? Of course he does. You know, anyone who knows Kip, this guy loves skiing. But the thing is you're holding all of these emotions, energy and motion, but what do you give the power? What do you deploy? And so a lot of people don't understand that if you have the sensory, you know, sensational design for sensational people, like when you just keep adding awesome stuff. But you may not realize that you're triggering part of you that you don't mean to. You're deploying an energy inside of you that is counterproductive to your work, that's counterproductive to your workout, is counterproductive to your relationship, is counterproductive to production. And at the end
Yes.
of the day, most people need production. So I think that is really great. And like I said, guys, we are having like just to be clear, it's myself, it's Kayla, and then it's these two wonderful people. We are hosting the event in Detroit. So you're going to get a lot of incredible things. These are my co-hosts. And I couldn't ask for better. I teammates is a hard thing to say because I think a lot of people can be teammates. These guys are like battle mates. It's like, hey, if we got to go make this thing better, or if we got to go kick down the door of your heart so that we can make a change, we're those people. We're like the Navy SEALs of actual growth, like in all levels, whether no matter what part of the infinity model you're in. That's what it's all about, is making a difference in your life. So with that being said, let's scoot on over to Kip. You've never traveled, you've never been on an airplane. Marriott
No.
doesn't know who you are. And he has I didn't even know like some of these statuses existed. He has lifetime titanium status at Marriott, and I didn't realize what it was until he opened up his phone and like showed me all the benefits. I'm like, I want those benefits. Like there's
There you
like
go.
6 feet. There's what was it? 1,300 nights just
Yeah.
in a Marriott.
Yeah, just paid nights. You got to be specific. 1,300 paid nights in a Marriott.
So this guy has traveled. He's been on incredible leadership teams for everything from AT&T. He helped. I can't remember his name. Some dude named Steve Jobs. Like he hasn't really done much. No one really knows who he is. Kind of obscure. If you don't know who I'm talking about, go ahead, Google Steve Jobs. I think that could help you out a little bit. But he was part of the team that launched the first iPhone. So he understands how to communicate ideas, visions, leadership, management, understanding those business things that a lot of people I think are easy, or you just have it or you don't have it. And he has those systems and those processes, the SOPs, the blueprint to help you be able to manage teams and even manage leaders. And I think that's maybe one of the things that I think is interesting with you specifically, because you've been in rooms with like not just, oh, you're obviously a leader, but you've been in rooms with titans. Like, okay,
Yep.
so because the titans, like a Steve Jobs, is not just managing managers, he's managing the leaders.
Yeah.
So walk me through a little bit about, who Kip is. And, I guarantee you, here's what they're going to be thinking. And maybe we start with this. What is it like working around with understanding the standards that Steve Jobs brings to the table? Because I guarantee
Oh my goodness.
you know what we're going to do? We're going to let you talk about who you are. We're going to do that at the end. We're going to carrot this thing so that people actually get to the end of this podcast. You have to listen to the whole thing if you want to know more about Steve Jobs. And I'm just going to bring it up randomly, so you can't just fast forward to the end, because I want you guys, anyone listening to this, to actually know these people because they're so incredible. So Kip, tell me a little bit about, who you are, what you do, leadership management, what it means to you. Take it away.
Awesome. I appreciate that. Yeah, no, we'll definitely get to that, because man, that there are some stories. Again, I don't know if there's enough time in our lifetime to go over all of them, but we're going to certainly try over time. But no, I love leading people. I love taking a team and making a team very effective, very productive. I you know, it's always weird to kind of talk about yourself and say some of the things you did and that. But one of the superpowers, if you will, that I've had over the years is taking a team of people and getting them to accomplish more than what they thought they could do.
That's so good.
And there's some real secrets to this. That there's some real tricks of the trade that can be duplicated. People can implement these strategies right away. And so I'm super excited about Detroit because we're going to talk a lot about them. There's a bunch of things that define what a real leader is.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about somebody that is just sort of dictating ways to do things. A real leader inspires their team to do it. And that's what I did throughout the years, whether it's from, it's interesting. I just looked this up yesterday. There are $6 trillion companies in the world today that are publicly traded and known. I've designed software for 4 of them, which is kind of cool.
I'm glad you're on our team. I want to be number 7. Number 7.
Yeah, exactly.
We're going to be the world's first $1 trillion personal growth company.
I love it. Yes. And that's the goal. See, now we're setting some goals. And really, when you get down to some of the key things about inspiring team members, it really comes down to empowerment. There are so many ways to empower people before you. And it's not just giving money. I actually think that's the worst motivator on the planet, is just giving people a raise. We can go into lots of stories and lots of reasons why I believe that, but it's figuring out how do you inspire and empower your team members and people that work for you to see the vision, to see the goal, to see how their role in life fits into getting that goal achieved. And when you can make that connection for people, that's when magic starts to happen.
I made that mistake with, honestly, so many people. I had a couple people who, I ended up paying all their bills, adding on to the phone plan, letting them live with me, different things like that. And it created kind of this, I thought I was helping, but it created this weird kind of subordinate, and we never clicked after that. Like, you have to empower people. And so when we're talking about leadership and your first thing out of your mouth is empowerment, most people are in manager mode and they try to manage people and they're not leading them. So it's like, let me manage your finances. Let me manage your living situation. Let me help you with a car. And then I'm going to do this and I'll protect you. But that doesn't empower them in any way. I have made that mistake. I can think of 3 times very specifically, 4 times actually, very specifically over me leading companies that I've done that. It did not work out well in any of the 4 times.
That's correct.
And people want their own stuff. It's kind of like Jim Rohn interviewed all of these really famous women who had kind of broken through America's glass ceiling. And he asked this, she's in the top, I can't remember who it was. Listen to Jim Rohn or Google it. I'm sure you can find out who it was. But she was in like the top 50 CEOs, I think, maybe 100 CEOs. And he said, okay, so you became like this high-powered CEO. And this is back when Jim Rohn was in the heyday. So like this is way worse than it is right now, and it's still pretty bad right now. And he asked, how did you do it? And she said, it's very simple. I met my husband in college. We got together. I kind of chose the stay-at-home mom route. And one day I really needed $20. So I went up to my husband. I said, hey, can I have $20? And he looked at me and he said, what for? And she said, I made a decision at that moment. I'm never going to have to ask him for another thing. And she said, and now let's just say that he might need to ask for the $20 because she's a little bit further. They didn't break up. They did this, but it's just how, like, he didn't empower her. And that's why, like, just so everyone knows my view on this, I don't care what you think you need to protect. I do not believe in separate bank accounts if you're married. I don't. It just sounds crazy to me. Like, you have your money, I have my money. No, we got our money. Like,
Yes.
I'll tell you right now, not all the time can Kayla step into my shoes and like go hit a stage or do this, that, and the other. Um, so by the optics on the outside looking in, I win a lot of bread for the family. I do. Um, I can also say that I have the easy job. Like, I love the thing where it says, I can't remember, but like, and with the backwards thing on the thing on the Zoom, you're probably not going to see it. But if you're listening to this on the podcast, go to the YouTube so you can see. But it says, the man's job is, it's like 9 to 5, 9 to 5, 9 to 5, and they're doing the clock thing, and then they're like, and then a mom's job,
All the yeah, forever.
and they're just like going through the whole thing. I'm like, that is so true because Kayla, if Conrad wakes up an hour and a half early, especially if I'm on the road, well, I mean, she has to get up too. If he's hungry, if he makes a mess, and then it doesn't stop until he goes to bed, which he hates going to bed. So it's
Yeah.
like, I mean, I had but the thing is, it's not my money. It's not her money. It is our money. Like
Yeah.
we got to figure this out. And there's a
Yeah,
lot. What's that?
I've made that mistake too, Matt. Oh, I tell you, the first time Laura really wanted to venture out and kind of get the entrepreneur spirit and start her own business again and come out of, we'll call it mom mode, because she'd been a stay-at-home mom for 15 years. And if you want some insight into how much I traveled, she was introducing herself as a married single mother of 3. I mean, that just that point drives home. I mean, you hear a little bit more about our story. There's actually some not so great moments with that when you really get down to it. But what
I
would
can imagine.
like the realization that my family had learned to live a life without me. I mean, that one stung.
Yeah. See,
That one stung.
well, and I think part of the empowerment and the, self-actualization, if you will, is being able to say that kind of stuff out loud.
Oh yeah,
You gotta be like, man, I could have made different decisions, but I didn't. So I'm just gonna own that. But now I can make the different decisions.
right.
So let's talk a little bit about let's go over to Dallas really quick. What was each of your favorite part of Dallas?
Oh boy. I mean, the moment of the totality was absolutely special, and we've obviously connected from the story how the final percent came into being, and I was thinking back. I actually remember back when the totality went through Missoula, Montana, where I grew up. I was 5 when that happened, and I remember it vividly out in the yard with the glasses on that my father made, and then we did also with the box that you put over your head and you like see the pinpoint, you see the reflection going through. So we did all that kind of stuff, and I remember that, and I remember it being magical then, and it was every bit as magical in Dallas. But that wasn't the moment that really struck me. The moment that struck me is when we were around in our group, and we had such a great group of people there, just some incredible business leaders, incredible parents, incredible humans out there with so much diversity and knowledge and talent there. I was looking around the room, and we had just come back from that Aspire tour, which was incredible. Like we were out there in Denver in the to see the Aspire and see 3,000 plus people there, and how they lit up that stage was just incredible. But I sat around in that totality event, and it struck me how much more meaningful, intimate, impactful, powerful. I mean, there's so many words to describe how that event was, because I was looking at everybody in the room and saw the aha moment. I mean, one of the things that I live for in helping people is to see that moment when they really grasp, connect, and figure out that they can implement some of the things that you're trying to help them with. When they have that aha moment, and I saw everybody in the room have that moment.
Watching those light bulbs get turned on is so fun.
So good.
So good.
So
What about
good.
you, Laura, what was your favorite moment?
Well, my favorite moment is a little bit more broad, right? It's not a pinpoint moment. It was really the positivity and the uplift. And what I found to really truly kind of be that inspiring moment is the concept that our community with TFP is really family centric, right? We have been part of groups all over the place. And when we were at that place, when we had small children, we were isolated away from so many opportunities to be able to grow and expand and to be able
Or
to
even
be around
partake.
positive people and those types of things for various reasons. But it was often because we had children.
Yeah.
And, and there was nobody, of course, that, could deal with the fact that our
Especially
children would
ours.
be there, those types of things. But the fact that the growth of the community is incorporating families as a whole, and that there were people sitting next to me with little tykers that were babies and stuff, and I could reach over and I could appreciate when they were done with the day and that they wanted to just be fed, and they didn't want to have to listen anymore. It didn't bother me at all, but what I saw was the ability for people to actually come in and do that. And I know that we have friends and things like that are like, we'd love to come, but hey, we've got a 4-year-old and they're not going to tolerate that, and what do we do with them, right? Type of scenario. It's not like we're going to just not, and so they don't go.
Yeah.
And so for me, being able to see and be part of a community that's really truly embracing that, because it's something that I have told people over and over again. You're going to miss out on the single moms or the single dads or the people that really truly could bring a lot to a community, because they don't have that potential support of being able to have that. So for me, I guess that just seeing how that growth is happening and seeing how the kids get so excited about different pieces of it, and Araya coming in and having her
she's got some
lovely
energy.
opinion. I absolutely adore that. I see so much of myself at that age. I was one of those rambunctious children that just would get in there and tell everybody what they thought.
You still are.
I still am. Without any shyness about it, because they're in an environment where they can speak and they're listened to and they aren't put down because of that. And I believe that is really truly a piece of the strength of our community that we're growing.
And that comes from you, Greg, at the top. I mean, at the end of the day, I love the fact that you will stop a speech, you will anything that you're doing. If Conrad comes running in and wants to grab the mic for a second, I mean, just that is so cool, because you don't see that very often. It makes it real. It's exciting. It's fun. It actually is a cool pattern interrupt. If you want to get to the technical side of it, but.
He's good at those.
He is really good at those. But what it really shows is how much you care for your family and how that just propagates down through the rest of the group. I just love it.
It was really interesting because, when I relaunched the TFP Mastermind, we had a few members, I think, 10 or 15 or so. And I went to speak at this other mastermind, and I had just had Conrad. Like, well, okay, just to be very clear, I didn't just have him. Kayla just had Conrad. And I got told, well, he can't come. And I said, well, then neither can I. Because this was like, I had made Kayla a promise. I said, hey, for the first year of his life, I'm not gonna go anywhere. Now, I did unfortunately break that one time because Bobby T invited me to Africa. When you're gonna go to Africa in that fashion, like even Kayla was like, you gotta
go. Yeah, exactly.
But every other thing that also I don't think if I even said like, okay, well, let's just bring you guys to Africa, I'm pretty sure that's a hard pass on her point. But every other thing that I spoke at, it had to be myself, Kayla, and Conrad. We traveled as a family, and I was watching the way that personal growth is kind of like, because I come from the music industry, it's kind of like another version of rock stars. And so it got a little weird, and so our mastermind is, if you join your spouse's, very specifically spouse, your business partner, that's a different membership, your girlfriend, different membership, your boyfriend, different membership, spouse, you get a membership too. Now, what if you guys get divorced? Both of you still have memberships. That's the way it goes. So, I wanted to make that to where, because I I saw people joining masterminds, but it was for only one person. So now one person's trying to get the information, they're trying to bring it back, but so much of the information is actually felt. It's that
Yes.
sensory thing. It's the community. It's being in the environment. And so we need to promote bringing people together so that families grow together, not apart. Because you have one, especially if there's no kids, you have one go, come back, and now it's like, okay, well, yeah, you did all that stuff. Sounds great. So what? Like now I'm just kind of mad because I actually just think you just took a vacation. Now you had kids, one leaves, one has to take care of the kids, and then what now there's cynicism or resentment that gets so
Yep.
we wanted to make it so we have childcare at our events. I went out and bought like $1,200 worth of toys in Dallas. Um and so now I've gotten with you guys, my wife, Dr. Eileen Gallagher, and we said, okay, we really like this model because the totality goes from it's a 2.5 day event, starts with community, then goes into personal growth, then business growth, vitality growth, ends with community so that we can bookend with all of us being together. But you can more clearly identify what pillar do you need to work on. But what we did is we said, okay, Dallas went well. That was the first type of that event that we've done. And then someone was just like, when are you going to come closer to Canada? When are you going to this? I said, okay, well, if I do an event in Detroit, like, what will people actually show up to you? So we kind of, you know, we're planting seeds and seeing, does this make sense? Well, it turns out now Detroit's going to actually have more people than Dallas. So we're going to have more people. I think, if you include kids and staff, we're over 50 right now. I think we've got either 2 or 4 more actual tickets. So if anyone listening to this wants to come, definitely grab your ticket. But it's all about, like they said, the community, the way that we come together, and just bouncing ideas off of each other, and trying to make it better than it was last time. And one of the things I ask people all the time is, do you do the work? It's like, do you want a better marriage? Okay, just ask yourself, do you do the work? You want a better body? Do you do the work? You want to be a better speaker? Do you do the work? Do you want to be a better parent? Do you do the work? It's not hard, just because you already know the answer. Do you do the work? No, I don't. Okay, well, then shut up. Like, just shut up. Either shut up or go do the work. Those are your options. But stop complaining. We don't need that. Okay, so with that being said, we've covered a lot of ground. We want to hear some Steve Jobs stories, man. We need some Steve Jobs stories. So pull out one of your favorite ones, one of your scariest ones, all of the above, whatever you want to tell. Let us know, what is it like to work with someone who gets mentioned in the same breaths as, a Bill Gates or even an Einstein. Like, a lot of people, I've asked a lot of people, if you could have lunch or dinner, sit down with one person, dead or alive, who would it be? And Steve Jobs is often one of those people. And to put into perspective, it's like Steve Jobs, Einstein, Jesus, like like these are the things that people say. He's in that
list
of a thing. So give us some Steve Jobs business.
He was a master at creating a culture. Steve Jobs always said that if you want it, you can't really compete on price. You're going to lose. Somebody is always going to be able to figure out how to do it cheaper than you at that point in time. So you have to stop competing that way. So you have to start competing on service. But he had a really unique take on service. When you look at the iPhone, I mean, back in the day, it was one button, and now there's no buttons. It is the easy. I gave it to my mother because I got tired of having to fight with all these different things and trying to help her teach the phone. I gave it to her and she knew how to use the phone. Everything they do, it's simplicity. And so to talk to him, you had to understand how to bring value. So I'll give a couple pieces of advice here, just as a tickler for what we like to talk about. One is, you cannot be intimidated talking to people. He was a human, just like, you, I, like, he was a normal person in that regard. He just happened to have a lot of power, happened to be visionary, and happened to have a real strong opinion about how things needed to be done.
Real strong opinion. That's probably an understatement.
Yes, that is. And so you can't be intimidated or scared when you talk to people like that. You've got to be confident in what you are bringing to the table in value, because he only knows what he knows. He doesn't know everything that you know, and so you can bring value to people like that. So that would be first and foremost. The second one is it needed to be short, to the point. He didn't really like you to just go off and tell a bunch of stories and that kind of stuff.
Oh man, I would have pissed him off.
Yeah, the power of conversation that you did. I loved that training that we did together, and I love how you tell a story with all of the different. You call them the 4 C's, but if you did that with Steve Jobs, you wouldn't have made it through C1.
He's like, I want the last C. Let's rock and
That's
roll.
right. Yeah, and so you had to be really precise and succinct in what your message was in there, and simple. His cornerstone that he's built the entire company around Apple on is being simple. Keep it as simple as possible. So how we sold the design, because to put it in context, what I designed was the startup sequence for the phones itself. So how, when you first initially get that device, you turn it on and you go through the whole setup of your account, all of the features and functions that you wanted for your account, and how do you start to get billed by the carriers for having the iPhone. So that whole sequence in there. And it had to be really simple. So I went to Steve and it's like, okay, you're going to do 4 things. You're going to select your phone, you're going to select your rate plan, you're going to select your features, and you're going to enter your billing information, and you're done. It's 4 steps that you go boom, 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 done. It's by far and away the simplest buy flow you'll ever see for a complicated device like this. And that's how we did it. But one of my favorite stories of him, the culture clash between AT&T and Apple was just unbelievable, because AT&T back in the day, they were still out there in Dallas and Atlanta. They were in there with their suits and their jackets and everything, and we're in the auditorium in Cupertino, California, at Apple's old headquarters there. And there's maybe 1,400 people up there. And, Steve's on there, the CEO of AT&T at the time, Ed Whitaker, was there. And I have to give a presentation on how we're going to do all of this fun stuff in there. So I was part of the agenda for this, which is really kind of cool.
That is cool.
Very intimidating. But half the auditorium was sitting there in suits and ties, and the other half were in flip-flops and jeans and T-shirts on there. And then here's the company I worked for. We were contracted with AT&T at the time. We're like 5 people, and we're sitting in the middle between 1,000 people and 1,000 people.
Oh, goodness.
I was like, oh, this is interesting. I'm looking around going, oh boy, this is gonna be fun. And so Steve Jobs gets up and he starts talking about the iPhone and how this partnership with AT&T is just going to revolutionize the world. And he invites Ed Whitaker out on the stage, and Ed Whitaker walks out, and this guy was old school. Like, I'm talking, when I say it was a 3-piece suit and he had his hat on, like his cowboy hat kind of thing. Like he was old school. And Steve starts talking and introducing, saying what a great partnership. And he stops mid-speech. And he looks at him. He's like, oh no. You're at Apple. We don't do that at Apple. Walked off stage, grabbed a pair of scissors, walked out and cut $1,000 tie off of and threw it. He's like, we don't wear ties. And so the whole auditorium erupts, and then you see all the AT&T guys throwing off their ties. It was great.
Oh, goodness, what a moment.
It was cool. Yeah. He architected a moment there. That was one of the things Steve was just absolutely brilliant at, was architecting moments.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's what it's all about. And I think that's something, when I got to hang out with you guys, you at every event that we've ever been to, you guys are so great at being an architect of moments. And I think this is what people don't necessarily understand, is you can architect a moment in your marriage. It doesn't need to be an architected moment for Instagram. It doesn't need to be an architected moment for Facebook. Like, you can architect a moment for your kids, for a group of people, for all of these things. And, we were at this conference, and you happened to sit next to my mom, and my mom kept telling me about this smiley guy. That's what she would call Kip. And so, we've just kind of been inseparable ever since. We're both coaches, a lot of synergy. their coaching practice was called Trifecta, and it had an infinity thing in it. And then we have the Infinity Club. So there's a lot of you, things, synergistic things, and things that are in harmony when we started chatting about, where can we take this? What does what does an exponential relationship look like? And we've definitely found it here, and that's why I love speaking with them. I love coaching with them. When I was talking to Dan Fleischman, he asked me, he said, help me understand your Infinity Club. It is a mastermind, it's not a mastermind. I said, well, it started out a mastermind, it's not this, that, and the other. And so he's saying, well, what do most people end up asking you? How do you, and I said, well, now it's either biz dev stuff. For anyone who doesn't know what that means, business development, or it's actually more, I'd say 80%. How do I get on stage? How do I build a coaching practice? How do I do this? So we are launching another mastermind and obviously we're going to do many masterminds that are niche down to help people, but this is going to be the first one, and I'm doing it with Kip and Lora. They're going to be running point on it. I'm definitely very much involved, but this is something to get more focused and be run more traditionally, but they were a logical step and something that is incredibly, like what Lora said at the beginning of this. 8 years I've been doing this. Just like, these are people with tenure, with focus, with intensity, and they have experience. They've been in the operating room, which we'll definitely get into. They've been in the room with freaking Steve Jobs. They've launched products that changed the world. And you brought, yeah, your kiddos to the Dallas event, and tell her I said
Two
this.
of them.
um and it wasn't a situation to where it's like, oh, your kids are here, and it wasn't like they just went and played with all the other kids. I mean, they're a little older than all the other kids, so they probably wouldn't have done that anyway, but they didn't just stay in their room and watch TV. They participated, and they had fun, and getting on the microphone and saying, hey, here's how I think of my dad. Here's what mama's got going on. Like, they play life full out. And I think that's the thing that we do, is we create these moments where people can actually have breakthroughs. And one of the things that I think we want to help equip people with is, not every breakthrough has to come from a breakdown.
Yep.
You can be in a positive environment and choose to be better than you were yesterday.
Yep.
You can be uplifted. You can have those people around you, and bringing the families together and going cool things with cool people is important. And the more experience you have, is when you have those hard things happen, you have the hard people to go through them with, because you have tenure, you have relatability, you have people who know you. I know that at a moment's notice, I can call either one of these people and they're going to have my back. Not not because they think that they owe me something, and not because it's a sense of obligation. It's just, that's who they are. It's not something they do, it's who they are. And that's, bringing it full circle, what it's all about, and leading from the front by example. So with that being said, May 31st, June 1st, June 2nd, we're going to be in Detroit. These two wonderful people are going to be hosting with me and my wife. They're going to be speaking. They're going to be, available to kind of take the next step. We're in the process of launching this new mastermind. So if you guys are interested in seeing what that looks like, and you want to be involved with that, please let them know, me know, my team know, whatever we can do to help you get on stage, launch your own mastermind, launch your own practice, whatever it is. We're going to have a group of people that I think can do it at the best level, because it's not from a one size fits all. It's not from a guru mentality. I mean, we've got some people that are fantastic. And the great thing is, there's multiple times where already, just so you guys know, I have already disagreed with Kip. I have already disagreed with Lora. They've disagreed with me. And we did this weird thing called talk about it. And we did this weird thing called get to tomorrow. And the thing is you need multiple points of view. You need the multiple points of expertise, perspective. I think it's the game changer. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for being on the podcast. And I think it's what we do is we'll have Lora come on because man, we got to build one of these oil derricks and drill down on her story. We got to do it with Kip as well. Get you, and then I say we do another podcast after we have both of you guys together again, just so people can really get to know you guys because you're needed, you're necessary. Thank you for who you are, what you do, and I'm looking forward to Detroit. Any comments, question, concerns, anything you guys want to add?
I wouldn't say concern other than come to Detroit if you haven't got your ticket yet. Snatch up one of those last remaining couples there. That's really important. It's about designing the life that you want, and I really think that starts with community. At the end of the day, you've got to surround yourself with people that will uplift you, people that will inspire you, whether that's a leader, whether that's a colleague, whether that's a friend. You find the people that will help you see in yourself what you're capable of.
Amen.
Because we're capable of so much more than you realize.
Yeah.
And that's the goal. That's the part that really excites me, is to again see that light bulb go off, or that aha moment. And it starts with getting in the room. You got to show up. You've got to show up.
All right, Lora, you got any words of wisdom?
It's exciting. It's going to be fun. You've got to be there to really see how everyone cares and how you can be a part of something more than yourself. So come to Detroit.
Yeah.
Like, you got to be there.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm just saying, a small little tickler. You got to be hungry when you come to my speech.
Yeah.
Leave it at that.
There we go. And then, the last thing is, and this is something that, needs to be immortalized. It's going to last forever. Kip, I love you more. Lora, I love you more.
Well, we will accept it. Awesome, Greg. Really appreciate everything you do, man. It's been just an absolute pleasure. We are so thrilled to be part of the Final Percent group and knowing you and Kayla. It's awesome.
Hey, we're just getting started. All right, guys. See you in Detroit.